20 years I lived inside somebody else's lie. Took a stranger with a recorder showing up in my bay doors to finally make me say the truth out loud. 4 in the morning, every so often, I wake up to a smell that isn't there. Smoke. Not every night. Enough nights that Donna stopped asking a long time ago. She just rolls over and lets me sit up in the dark by myself. I was 28 the night it happened, second year on the job. Thought I'd seen it all by then. Hadn't seen anything. The house on Maple Street went up fast. Inside a minute you couldn't see your own glove in front of your face. Not smoke, a wall. You breathe through the mask and still taste soot behind your teeth for 2 days after. I was paired with Rick that shift. 7 years in, already the guy everybody wanted next to them in a bad one. Not because he talked a big game, because he didn't talk at all once the door came down. Just moved. We split at the stairs. I went right, toward what dispatch called a kid's room. Boy, 8, last seen at a second-floor window. Here's the part I've never said out loud. Not to Donna. Not to anybody. I didn't go under right when that beam came down. There was a second, maybe 2, before it all went black. And in that stretch I heard something. A voice. Grown man, not a kid. And it came from outside, from the street, not from where Rick was supposed to be, which was inside, same as me. I never let myself sit with whose voice that was. 20 years of not sitting with it, easier that way. I remember a sneaker on the floor. Small. I remember yelling that I was coming. I remember the sound the beam made going down. Not a crack, more like something with bones in it giving out. Then nothing until the rig. First thing out of my mouth wasn't, "Am I alive?" It was the kid. They told me he made it. Told me Rick got to him. That while I was pinned 2 rooms short of that door, Rick, already choking, already supposedly turned back, somehow ran the whole rescue from the yard in the last 10 seconds anybody had. A month later, I stood on a stage in dress blues and clapped while somebody hung a medal around Rick's neck. 20 years I've been the guy who didn't get there in time. And in 20 years, I never once asked my best friend, my daughter's godfather, the man who stood next to me at my own wedding, what happened in the 2 minutes I was face down on that floor. Never asked. Some part of me already knew I wasn't going to like whatever came back. 3 days ago, a guy showed up in the bay doors with a recorder in his hand, and before he even said a word, before I knew his name, something in my chest just shut, like a door somebody kicked closed. The tones dropped that same second. Call came in, we rolled. Ordinary Tuesday. I don't know who he is yet. But some part of me is already drafting an answer to a question he hasn't asked me. His name's Daniel Kowalczyk, does a podcast, digs up old cases nobody followed up on, wants an episode on Maple Street. First sit down, I gave him what I always give people. Rick went in, Rick got turned back by smoke, Rick ran it from outside. Voice steady. 20 years of saying it will do that for you. At the end of it, he reached out to shake my hand, and his sleeve rode up an inch. There's a patch of skin on the inside of his forearm that doesn't match the rest of him. Shiny, pulled tight, the kind of scar tissue you only get one way. I've seen that exact texture of skin before, on a kid, 20 years ago. In a hospital hallway I wasn't allowed past. Told myself it didn't mean anything. Guys get burned all kinds of ways. At the door, almost like he was talking to himself more than me, he said, "My mother used to say the department's version never quite lined up with what the paramedic told her on scene, before she passed." I didn't say anything back. Don't think I trusted my voice right then. Told Donna that night, not everything, just that a reporter had come around asking about Maple Street. She kept scrubbing a plate that was already clean. Didn't look up. "The gloves," she said. I told her I didn't follow. Week after, you were still in the hospital. Rick came by the house, burned a pair of gloves in the can out back. Didn't think anybody saw. Wrong size for him, too small. I remember standing at the window with a dish towel in my hand thinking, whose gloves are those? 22 years married, and she'd been sitting on that the whole time. Why didn't you say something? Because you were already broken over that boy, Mark. I figured whatever it meant, you didn't need one more thing to carry. I stood there in my own kitchen understanding, for the first time, that my wife had been keeping her own silence right alongside mine. Next morning, I pulled the old incident file out of the station archive, the actual paper copy, the one nobody's touched since everything went digital. Half of it was missing, not misfiled, gone. A log sheet that should have been in there wasn't. Somebody had been in that drawer before me. I stood there a while with an empty folder in my hands and a cold feeling moving through my chest that had nothing to do with the AC. I called an old friend who still works records over at County General, asked her off the books to pull the admissions from that night. Took her 2 days to get back to me. Boy's name was Dennis Kowalczyk, 8 years old, 2nd and 3rd degree burns, right forearm and shoulder. Kowalczyk. Dasha. I sat in my truck in that hospital parking lot for 20 minutes before my hands would work the ignition. The man with the recorder was the boy from that house. Captain Hale ran the station back then. Man I looked up to more than my own father, if I'm being straight about it. He's in a home now. Good days, bad days, mostly bad lately. Told myself the visit had nothing to do with any of this. That was a lie too, just a smaller one than most. He knew my name that afternoon, asked after Donna, asked if I still ate too much red meat. Old joke between us. Then, out of nowhere, not connected to anything we'd been talking about, we decided the department couldn't take a second black eye that year. He stopped. Just stopped. Mid-sentence, like a door had shut behind his own eyes. Captain, you were built for it, Mark. He wasn't looking at me anymore. He was looking at the window. Tougher than... nothing. He picked at the blanket on his lap like the sentence had gotten lost somewhere in his hands. Tougher than who? He asked me if I'd fed the dog. 3rd time in 15 minutes. I sat with the pieces he'd handed me and did the rest of the math myself because he wasn't going to finish it for me. Somebody had decided back then which one of us was going to eat the failure so the department didn't have to. And it wasn't going to be the one already halfway to a medal. I drove home and sat in the driveway a while before I went in. Didn't cry. Just sat there with the engine off, hands on the wheel, not ready yet to be a person Donna would have to look at. Took the better part of 2 weeks to track down Lou Reyes. Rookie that night, 3 months on the job, maybe less. Now, he does overnight security at the parking structure downtown, drinks in his truck before his shift like it's part of the uniform. First time I knocked on the window, he about came out of his seat. Told me to get the hell away from his truck, said I'd come to wreck the only quiet thing he had left. Went back a second time anyway. Bought 2 coffees, left one on the dash where he could reach it. He didn't touch it for 20 minutes. Then he did. I pulled that kid out, he said. Not Rick. / 4 words. And 20 years of what I thought I knew just came apart in my hands. Then why'd you let him wear it? I asked. He laughed, short and ugly, no humor in it. Week after the fire, Rick shows up at my apartment. Tells me he's got a report saying I failed an air tank check that shift. Never happened. Didn't matter. His signature on the wrong form and I'm done. No pension, no letter, nothing. 22 years old with no other trade. You want to guess how fast I folded? He tried once. 6 years in, filed a complaint. It went nowhere. Disappeared the same way that log sheet in my file drawer disappeared. After that, he stopped trying. Started drinking somewhere around then too. Though he didn't say exactly when, and I didn't ask. Wife left 9 years ago. Doesn't talk to his own son much these days either. You want to know why I sat on it 20 years, he said. Because using it means admitting I had 20 years to fix this and didn't. That's worse than what he did to me. He's got a threat to hide behind. I've just got the years. Then he told me about the tape. Old microcassette, said the night of the fire, out in the lot, in shock, Rick had mumbled something into a recorder he must have had clipped to his coat, dropped it without noticing. Lou picked it up off the asphalt and never gave it back. Kept it 20 years as insurance he was too scared to ever cash in. I played that tape for Daniel 2 days later without asking Lou first. Want that on the record plain because it isn't a small thing. Lou handed me the one piece of proof he'd protected for 20 years, and I put it in front of a stranger with a microphone because I'd decided, on my own, that it mattered more than what I owed him for trusting me with it. Daniel listened to it through twice. Didn't say much, just sat there nodding slow. Then I told him the rest, told him what the hospital file said, told him his own name matched the boy's. He didn't move for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was flat, like it had gone somewhere else. "I've spent 3 months chasing somebody else's story," he said, "and it was mine the whole time." A week later, he called me back, quieter than I'd heard him yet. Going through his mother's old paperwork for something else, he'd found a settlement, signed 20 years back. His family took a payout from the city in exchange for never publicly challenging the department's account of that night. "I've been asking everybody else to come clean," he said. "Turns out I inherited the same deal I've been chasing." Neither of us said much after that. We were all just people who'd found out, one way or another, that quiet usually comes with somebody's signature on it. Rick's up for state fire commissioner. Votes in 5 weeks. Statewide safety reform. His name all over it. Once that goes through, every record from back then gets sealed under the reform paperwork. Real vote, real date, real door closing, for good. 3 weeks before it, Rick showed up at my kitchen table. Not yelling, not threatening, crying. The kind you can't fake at 54, because faking takes energy neither of us has left at this age. 20 years, Mark. 20 years I put myself in front of every fire like I was trying to, I don't even know. Burn it off, maybe. Call it a coward's move, go ahead. Then he offered me something. My name put back where it should have been in the record, full credit, the whole thing corrected. All I had to do was let the vote happen quiet. I wanted to take it. Not for a second, for most of that conversation. That's the part I still haven't made peace with. Not what Rick did 20 years ago. What I almost did at my own table, 20 years later, when the lie finally had my name stitched into it too. I told him no. Wasn't clean saying it. He got up and left without finishing his coffee. 2 nights later, Rick went into a warehouse fire alone. No backup, no line, nothing by the book. They had to drag him out. In the hospital, still fogged on whatever they'd given him, he wasn't talking about the vote. He was talking about his father. Rick's dad was on the job too. Died in front of him when Rick was 8. Rick froze. Couldn't get the words out fast enough to call for help. Maple Street wasn't a career man running numbers on a lie. It was an 8-year-old's legs taking over a grown man's body, running him straight back to the one place he never got out of. I'd hated him for months by then. Sitting in that hallway, I felt something worse than forgiveness. A kind of grief for a man I still believed had done something I couldn't get past. Both things saddened me at once, and neither canceled the other. He never got past being that kid. He also let a 22-year-old rookie's whole life get wrecked to keep that kid's fear buried. Knowing where it came from doesn't erase what he built on top of it. Vote was 2 days out. Lou, Daniel, and I sat in my garage the night before, none of us saying much. Lou broke it first, voice cracking. 20 years, I've been the guy who wasn't even in the story. I'm done being him. That was the whole decision. Confirmation ceremony. City Hall auditorium. Full house, press, city officials, half the department, families in the back rows. Rick at the podium, giving the same speech he's given 100 times. I stood up, walked to the mic. There's a man here who ought to finish this instead of me. Called Lou up. He came forward in a dress uniform he hadn't worn in 20 years, hands shaking bad enough I could see it from where I stood. Didn't ask for a medal, just told it straight, the way a man talks when he's finally letting go of something he's held under for 2 decades. I pulled that boy out. Voice caught, hard, had to start again. 20 years I've been the guy who wasn't in the story. I'm done being him. Daniel got up, walked past me without a word, went straight to Lou, shook the hand of the man who actually carried him out of that fire, first time in his life. Rick didn't confess up there, didn't ask forgiveness for the cameras, set his badge down on the podium, quiet, and walked out the side door without looking at any of us. Didn't get my medal that day. What I got was smaller. Watched a man invisible for 20 years stand for 30 seconds in the middle of his own story. Watched a father-to-be shake the hand of the person he actually owed his life to, instead of a photograph on a wall, and still wake up some mornings at 4 to that smell that isn't there. Don't figure that ever fully quits. But it's a different kind of awake now. 20 years, I thought the fire that mattered was the one that put a beam through my shoulder. Turns out, it was the one I kept feeding by not asking a single question I already half knew the answer to. Doesn't make up for the years I didn't ask. But the weight's spread out now, across every hand that helped build it, instead of sitting on the one man who happened to be closest when the beam came down.